Hello Internet, I'm Guy. Since you've seen the thumbnail, you can probably imagine what all these parts are for here. My friend John has asked me to make a couple of knife hinges, which are used in cabinets like the one pictured here. And these hinges are available for a rather steep price, and he asked me if I'd like to make some, and I said sure, that would be a fun project. So I found in my bins these bits of angle that are actually 3/8 by 3/16 thick, which is the perfect thickness as long as I cut off the entire edge here. And this I can use for the hinge pin, and I happen to have the perfect number 8 by 1/2 inch screws. So everything is in stock. All I need to do is cut them and machine them. And I'm just making 2 hinges, one for each side, or actually 4 hinges altogether, because there will be 2 doors that will open like this on the front of the cabinet. And so let me jump right in. I'm going to start making these because he's in the process of making this cabinet as a commission for a friend or a client. So let's get going. I've set up a sled on my table saw with a stop block so I can cut all of these lengths to just over 1 3/4, which is the desired length. And then of course I'm going to machine off this leg here to make the flat parts of the hinge. So here we go. So I've been thinking about the order of operations, and it turns out that this inner dimension here is the dimension that I need for the width of the little strips that I need for the hinges. And so it makes sense for me to pre-drill all 3 holes here first with a 5/16 drill bit. That is the clearance size for the screw, but it will also be the clearance size for the hinge. So I'll have a hole here for a screw, another one for a screw, and another one for the hinge hidden over there behind the center finder. So what I need to do now is find the center line of this and then index for that first location as a 0 point, and then move over to find the other 2 locations. There we are. Okay, zeroed that. So now I'm setting my depth stop on the column of the mill, and then I'm making sure it doesn't come down and hit my vise here. So that's got a hard stop. So now I just have to drive over to position, which is the first position is 0.3. Too much. All right, and then what I do is I tap this just a little bit to get it right spot on. I'm hitting the table with a rubber mallet. So I'm right spot on. I'm hoping I can do all these drills with the straight drill bit. I'm going to try this out. If this doesn't work, I'll do spotting drills and then drills. All right, that looks like I'm where I want the holes to be, I think. I'm going to double check their positioning here and make sure I've got everything trued up. This is a first test article to see how it works. Well, clearly those holes didn't line up because I didn't have my vise all trammed in, so now I do. And also I noticed that these screws were not quite fitting in the holes that I had planned for them, so I've done another test hole here, and that's what I want right there, one drill size up. So now I'm going to set up and do production drilling. Okay, so here's my cheat sheet for the hole locations, 0.3, 0.8, and 1.7, which will be right at the far end here. I'm kicking this out of sight, and here we go. Beautiful. Okay, so now moving to 0.8 inches. Tappity tap tap. And next hole. And one more. Going to 1.7. There it is. Okay, and that does look correct. All right, number 1 of 8. Having made that one, I'm going to take it out of the vise and put it aside, put the next one in, and get it all lined up. Oops, yes, I've got a very thin parallel in there, and it's dropping down through it. And I'm bumping up against my magnet there, which is my stop. So there we are. And I might as well just do this one right now and work my way the other way. Happiness is a sharp drill bit. I've got to ease in through those holes, that's for sure. That's a sharp drill bit. Number 2 done. Now that I've got them all drilled, I need to countersink these 2 holes for the wood screws that will go into the cabinet. And I've got my first one drilled so that that head just is below that surface a little bit when it drops in there. So now I've just got to keep hitting those spots. That's zeroed in. Okay, follow that hole. Yeah, I've got a lot of chatter there, but I don't think it really matters because that will never be seen. And that hole is right where I wanted it because I set a depth stop. Perfect. Okay, last one. That's all 8 of them chamfered for the screws. I've been struggling with the best way to remove the L off of the bracket, so I've rough cut it off on a bandsaw, and then I've got parallels that are just not quite high enough, so I put my scale, my little ruler, underneath it there, and that brings it up just a hair above the height of the vise. Now I've set a depth stop for the bottom of my cutter, and hopefully that's going to line up right here. So I have one spare to do a test with. Let's see how this plays. Okay, that's looking too deep, so I'm going to back it off a little bit. Let's try that again. All right, let's break that loose from the vise and see how it all looks. That is pretty close. I think I could probably file that down. I'm going to think about that. But then it's not quite perfectly centered here, so now I'm going to have to go another pass and mill this edge down just to get it all to line up. But I'm in the home stretch here on this part. Okay, I think I've got this dialed in. Yeah, that's pretty close. So as you can see, I'm about 25 thou off on this side here compared to there. That was because of the rest of the angle here was hard to cut off accurately, shall we say. So I'm just going to try machining down 25 thou on that one and then this one, and make sure if they get flipped over face to face that they line up with each other. So let's see how that works. Okay, so I just finished taking 28 thousandths off each side, and now these two faces should go together perfectly, and those two holes should line up, and I think that's pretty darn good. So now I've got some cleanup to do on these surfaces and these surfaces, but that's just a little sanding here and there. So I've just got to machine down the rest of these. I was considering trying to set up a rotary table jig to round these over, but then I realized it's just going to be simpler to use the end of my steel ruler here and just grind it down on the sander, my good little 1-inch sander. So I'm just going to mark these off, scribe them, and do a little sanding. Okay, so one at a time, I'm just going to put that right on the edge there and scribe. So I've got this pair pinned together with a drill bit, and that will help keep them all aligned. I've got a piece of tape over at this end to hold them together, and hopefully that I can kind of match this curve a little. That looks pretty good. Let's see what it would look like if it's swiveling around. Let's see, these actually go back to back like that. No, let's see. These face each other. So it will go like that. And then this goes through there. And then the hinge pivots like that. That's what we want here. So I'm going to get all those finished up, and then it's on to making the pin, the hinge pin. Okay, so now on to the pins. I've got a blunt end cutter here with an undercut right here, and I'm just going to shave this down until I get to the diameter that I need. So let's see how it works out. I'm going to have to run this thing really fast. Okay, let's have a look. Here's one of the hinges. And it's a little bit tight still. Okay, let's take another pass. Yes, that's what I wanted. It's snug at that end, but it's loose on the pivot end here. So I can then force that on and wedge it in. Okay, so then I just got to cut this off and we're good. Okay, so that seems to be where I want my parting tool to be. It's going to guide off, unfortunately. Yeah, all right, let me see if I can just push it a little bit so it doesn't guide off. She goes. Perfect. So the way these two hinges go together is the screws are facing towards each other, and what I'm going to do now is drop this pin in with the narrow end down there, tap it in just a little bit, and I'll line it up with the other one, I guess, and just tap it in. Not going in. Okay. Okay, a little firm encouragement off camera, shall we say. There we are, that's it flipped over. So you can see how it works. That one I may need to remake, but we'll see. So what I'm going to do now is just hit this with the sander and then the Scotch-Brite to smooth this all out so that it will look like this one that I finished already. And as you can see, it's almost invisible on the back side here. And then on this side, the pin barely comes through. Actually, it's a little below proud there. Here's the final set of hinges. 2 on the right door, 2 on the left door, and a spare part just in case. So as you can see, this hinge pin is pounded in so tightly that it's almost not visible. That one I might want to burnish down a bit more on the Scotch-Brite. But as you can see, they really fit and work and pivot really well. They really swivel well. They're just a hair on the loose side, but I think that's fine because once they're attached into the case, there may be some stresses on them that cause them to tighten up a little bit. We'll see how John makes that work for him. So far, I'm really pleased though, and I'm hoping John is when he's finished installing them in the doors.